Hello and welcome to Student Voice. I'm River Malone. Today I would like to discuss radio and more specifically its past and potential future. With us today are Dave Lofton, Natalie Gard, and Benjamin Jennings. So real quickly, I want to know what made y'all interested more in radio as opposed to other medias like news or TV? What was that like thing, if anything, that got you into it?
I started out learning how to do both radio and television pretty much at the same time. I liked TV, I liked radio, but I really enjoyed the more the freedom of radio, and of course, not having to worry about being on camera, not worrying about how you look. It just seemed to be more. There's just a lot more to explore and a lot less restraints, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I agree. I was either going to go into radio or TV, and I did a job shadowing where I went to News Channel 9 and went to US 101, and I decided that news, you were given things to talk about and, topics and all politics and stuff like that. And I just felt radio, you could be more yourself, you could interject more and show more of your personality. And
I agree with that a lot.
That's why I went into radio. And it helps that we can wear comfy clothes all the time. That's the best.
Yeah, definitely. It's like being a radio host, you get to have your, your personality, your thing. Being a student, obviously, I'm not really like into it yet, but I really like music and I really like sharing music with people, and I feel like having a radio show where it's just like an hour of like, hey, here's like the stuff I like to listen to.
Yeah.
It's just, fun to put that out there for people.
I agree, especially with that, of the people getting to see that personality, because radio to me, part of the reason I got to love radio was the personality that comes along with it, because you can go on there and monotone say everything, but you lose people that way. It's whenever you start feeling more human and relatable that people actually starting to engage more, and that's what I was drawn to radio for. That and the music. So to go along with that, how did y'all get started working in the radio industry? Where was your first baby steps, so to speak?
Back in '97, I joined the Air Force, and I was actually considering following my father's footsteps of print journalism. And when I'm looking through the book of jobs at the recruiter station, I flipped a page from print journalist to broadcast journalism. I'm like, huh. And at the time, my sister was working at Channel 3, so I'm like, well, I kind of seen how that goes. But yeah, so that's what I did. My schooling in Fort Meade, Maryland was 13 weeks of everything broadcast media, writing, announcing, newscast, news gathering, and then radio. And so yeah, that was an intense course that just shoved me right into the broadcast world.
For me, I started, like I said, I did the whole job shadowing where I went for a news channel and a radio station, and I decided that we had this program in high school called Work-Based Learning, and it was where seniors could have a half day of school, so it was epic. So you could either go get a job or get an internship, and I already had a job, so I went for an internship, and I didn't have to go to school till 11. It was awesome, but I started in morning radio, and I started at this little station that's no longer here anymore. They flip formats, and I started in high school, my last semester of senior year. Then I came here to Chattanooga State, and they have the internship class to get credits, and I took it again and went back there, and then I finally got on part-time, and I was working at this radio station, and then they flipped formats, and so I went to a different radio station, and now I'm at a even different radio station. So
yeah, again, it kind of goes back to the student thing, and I don't know how much of this is going to be I don't even know if I end up going into a job in radio, but at least for working on radio stuff, you trained me yesterday. So I'm looking into volunteering here at the Wall, and I'm excited to do that. So it'll probably be here.
I remember the first day of college, I walked into the radio room because I was trying to figure out where my classes were and being awestruck by that. And then later on, Chris was like, "Yo, you can do that. You know that, right?" And I was like, "Okay, maybe we'll see." And then I ended up wanting to do that more and more. And then finally, I developed the show, The Odd Box, and from there it was just onward and upwards as far as when it comes to the wall radio. But yeah, I liked, especially Natalie, going back to there's no real age limit to get into the internship stuff. It's just about going out and getting into it, because there are options. You just have to find them. And I feel like that's the one thing people miss, is the fact that there is options more than they think are out there.
Yeah,
Like,
possibilities are endless. There's
Yeah.
so many opportunities.
you don't have to lodge yourself in, and especially in radio, where it's a business that's very tightly guarded, because it has to be now that it is fading from the popular light. It's who you know, not what you know, when it comes to radio, is what I've picked up on from my limited time in it. And it's really just about making those connections there, going to internships, even if it has to be free, and just doing the work the best you know how. And then from there, possibilities start branching out more and more. But it's really just about chasing those possibilities. And I feel like that's something that is really not getting as much attention, because a lot of people want to wait for an option, me included. For a while, I just wanted to wait for the option to occur, and it's never going to happen that way. They're never going to, especially in these types of jobs, they're never going to just hand you that job.
You gotta look for that. Do it yourself.
So how has radio changed since y'all were younger? I know it's changed a lot since Dave, but what's some of the biggest changes y'all have noticed that it's changed?
I think the biggest change, at least on commercial radio, is that no matter what station you listen to in town, I grew up here in Chattanooga, so everybody that you heard on the radio was local. It was always a local DJ. Morning, afternoon, drive time, even overnight. It was always a live local person. You could call in and request a song because they encouraged that. They didn't have a giant company with 500 radio stations giving everybody the same playlist that they had to stick to. You know, you could actually request music if it was in that format, and you could hear your song. You know,
It actually felt different.
yeah, you know, I mean, it was
You could turn the
you
dial and
had
find
a
something
connection
different.
with the radio station because, like I said, it's a real person. It's a Chattanooga person. So yeah, that was what I liked about it. And you know, this hasn't necessarily changed, but you know, just that you never knew what you were going to hear on the air. You had kind of an idea, but like even now, if you listen to a radio station, you know you're going to hear this song about 15 times during the day.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot more variety and a lot more freedom from the DJs as well.
Yeah, I would say that. Just, you know, the people that are doing it, it's becoming more and more like more people are doing more jobs and being syndicated from other cities and towns.
So it's
More
becoming
corporate.
more uniform across the board. So to
Right.
speak. There's very little difference
Right.
as far as personalities, talents,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
More boring.
Which I feel
Yeah,
like
it
is
is
like
boring.
a really bad thing, because I
It
feel like
is.
that kind of,
It decreases the
it's just gonna make like, I think that's just all it's gonna do is like help accelerate like
the depth of
radio declining, because it's just like, well, you know, this isn't interesting anymore. Like if you think of it as like kind of, you got all these different stations and even one is like a different, you know, playlist of any kind of new stuff. But if it's all just like the same top 40 kind of stuff, it's boring. And
Well, even whenever I was looking, going along with what you were saying, Ben, like whenever I was looking into making my own personality for the radio, my dad showed me a bunch of like the older radio personalities, and like you look at them and they have personality. Like they have catchphrases, they have things they do, they have their special music they play behind them. Like it's not just a person talking, it's their dialect is different. The way they sound, the way they amplify a certain word is the way they say that word and nobody else. It's
Like
just
having inside jokes with listeners, and you have no idea who they are, where they are, what they're doing.
it's one of those things that it feels so personalized. It literally feels like you're talking to or listening to a person just showing you music, and that's really what I feel like we are losing nowadays, especially with the radios that don't sound like they have any soul anymore. And that's what's killing, what's I believe will kill radio, has been as implying here, with the lack of personality. Well, that's all for this episode of Student Voice. If you want more information about college radio and The Wall, you can visit wawl.org. Have a great day.